Hello, I just want to make a little video about racial demographics in the UK. Okay, so first I want to start out by pointing out that London has a population of 13 million people as of 2013. Okay, now the government recently admitted that over half the population of London is now non-white. Okay, so 13 divided by 2 is 6.5 million. Okay, so since we have a majority of non-whites in London, let's just round out the figure to 7 million because it's not very far from it. Okay, now the UK population is 65 million. Okay, so that makes 7 million people, 10%. So in London, the non-white population is already 10% of the UK's population. If you have as many non-whites again across the rest of the country, then that's 7 times 2, which is 14 million or 20% of the UK's population. The government actually recently admitted, I think it was after doing the census figures, that there's a non-white population of at least 21 or 22%, something like that, across the UK, and they don't know the exact figure because a lot of them are illegal, which means there are more than the census counted. So when they say they don't know, what they mean is there are more, but they don't know how many more. There are not fewer than 21 or 22% of the UK's population. Right, so using those figures, I just want to extrapolate a few things, roughly at least. If we have 14 million non-whites and the UK's population is 65 million people, then roughly speaking, 50 million of us are white people, roughly speaking. I actually think it's fewer, but let's just say 50 million. Okay, so I just want to see how things will turn out in just 20 years. It's said that we will be a there'll be a non-white majority by 2050. I actually think it could be before 2050. I think it will be by, well, I think it will, you wait and see what I think. I actually think it will be within, say, 20 years, I personally think. But anyway, let's just have a little look at my figures. They're quite reasonable. Well, they're actually unreasonably low. But I just wanted to make things really simple and non-argumentative for anyone who thinks I might be exaggerating because I don't want people to think that I'm exaggerating. So let's have a little look at my figures now. Okay, we have a black couple. They are, of course, 2 people. All right? And we have a white couple, and they are also 2 people. Okay. So the black couple would have at least 3 children. They might well have more. Okay? In fact, they probably will have more. But they'll have at least 3. 2 and 3 equals 5. So just say in the next couple of years, say next, I don't know, let's make it the next 3 odd years, just say, because it's all going to be roughly the same. Anyway, I'm speaking roughly. So in the next few years, there'll be a family of 5. And in the next few years, our white couple will be still a family of 2, or not a family, there'll be a couple of 2, because white people don't seem to be having kids until they're about 40. All right. So we have to give them a bit longer than the next few years to have a child. Okay, in 20 years then, in 20 years' time, the black couple will be the 2 original people, their 3 kids, and then each of their 3 kids will also have 3 kids. So we have to add on another 9 people for the 3 kids of each of the 3 kids. Right, so there we have an extended family of 14 in 20 years. It's probably going to be more than that. right? It could well be an extended family of 30 or more, or 40, who knows how many. But it's going to be at least 14, say, okay? I keep my figures right down. In 20 years' time, our white couple will have their first child. So we will have the white couple, their first child, and that'll be a family of 3. Okay, they will be 40-year-old people with 1 child. And here we will have 2 40-year-old people, 3 20-year-old people, and 9 babies. Okay, so yeah, basically we have quite a big difference there. It's almost 5 times as many, and I am speaking roughly, right? So I've rounded it up to 15. I've rounded the figure to 15, so I can see that there has been a in terms of the original population that we started out with, which was 2, there has been I've rounded it up to 15. I should have said it was a flat figure of 7 here, a flat figure of 14, which would have made a 7-fold increase in the original population. Instead I put it 5. Oh, I should have put a 7-fold increase. Hang on. Yeah, it's a 7-fold increase in the original population, which makes 140%. I mean, yeah, 140% of the original population. The original population was 14 million. That's how many blacks there are today, 14 million at 20%. And we now have a 7-fold increase of 20%. So this is where I'm getting my 140 figure from. A 7-fold increase in the 20% figure. So I have a 7-fold increase in 14 million, which is, sorry about this, I'm going to have to work roughly, 70 plus 28, which is 98 million. Okay, sorry about this. It's 140% of 14 million. 14 million, which is 98 million. Right, okay. So over this side, we have 1 child, right, which is half as many as the parents. That's a 0.5% increase, a 0.5 increase. So we had up here 50 million white people, if you remember, because we roughly took the 14 million off the 65 and we got 50 million white people, right? So we have a 0.5% increase of 50 million, and that gives us 25 million and 50 million. That shouldn't be, that should be a 1 there. 1.5 times 50 million, which is 75 million. Okay, so in just 50 years, we have that there should be 98, so this should be 98. 98, which means 173, Jesus, 173 million. 173 million in 20 years. Yeah, that 98 million there, and the 75 million here, right? So in just 20 years, the non-whites, even if they only have 3 kids each, are going to be 98 million in this country. And given our reproductive work rate, we will be 75 million. So in just 20 years, we are going to be quite heavily outnumbered by the non-whites. Okay, so that's how much more? 75, 85, 95, 85, 95, 23 million. There are going to be 23 million more of them than there are of us. They're going to be up 25 million on us. 23 million on us. And right, so in terms of the number of adults, there will be 5 adults to 2 adults. So they will outnumber us 2.5 times. They'll outnumber us. There'll be 5 adults there to 2 adults. So they'll outnumber us. There'll be 2.5 of them for every one of us. They'll outnumber us 2.5 times. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, 2.5 times. That's it. Okay. Now, so we are going to be outnumbered before 20 years is up, because this isn't going to happen in these steps. It's going to happen over time, obviously, incrementally, year after year after year after year. The child they have now may well have a baby, marry and have a baby by the age of 16. You know, so it's going to happen incrementally on and on and on. Plus, we have immigration of non-whites and emigration of white people. So we're going to have this situation occurring really before 20 years. I think we could be a minority. We white people could be a minority within 15 years, and I think we will have serious problems within 10 years, personally. So they might only be 20% at the moment. In fact, they're actually admitted to be 21 or 22% according to the last census, according to the government's admission a year or two ago, as I said earlier. And in fact, I think personally they're already about 30 or 40%, because I just see so many everywhere I go. We are on our last legs here, people. I think we have 15 or fewer years left to a minority. I actually think we have about 10 years until we have a war, or basically just surrender into death. The question is, why is this being done? Why are we being genocided? Because we are. If we want to survive as a race, we're not even allowed to be a race, are we? Or we're called racist. We're certainly not allowed to be a majority. I don't think we'll be allowed to be a minority either, because basically we are good at making money, which means we'll be better at buying resources, keeping hold of resources, and they won't like that, these foreigners. They want what we've got, which is why they've come here. They say they've come here for a better life and for jobs, don't they? So they won't want us to have money. If we have money, we will be able to deny them things, because rich people deny other people things. They buy everything up, don't they? And you have the leftovers, and they won't want that. So how do you get it? If you can't get it honestly, you get it dishonestly. We know what they're like in other countries. They have a lot more coups and fights. Why is this being done? I can only imagine it's being done to make war. To beat everyone back into submission by the few elites, the powerful, the few people who form the elite. And indeed form a world government, make everyone say, order, order, please give us order, and surrender all power to them. The alternative is that the elite, the rich people, are trying to commit suicide. Do they seem suicidal? They don't, do they? I know they seem suicidally greedy and stupid, but there could be a method to their madness. There could be a plan that they're hiding, and we know what they're like. They're not, well, they're scheming, aren't they? Scheming, dishonest, violent, abusive. There's plenty of film and footage now of what the police are allowed to behave like. We know they've allowed Muslim gangs to groom white children for over a decade. That was only brought to light by the BNP and finally the Times after 10 years. I can really only imagine that this is the path that is being taken to drive us to globalization. So, because I think the idea is that they'd like to rule the world. So they want to mix all the populations up so that nobody has any kind of claim to anything over anyone else. They hoped. The thing is, no other countries, no non-white countries have gone along with this. China's staying China. Russia's staying Russia. They've tried to get the Middle East, and that hasn't worked either. And all we're left with is a filthy great mess here. And in Europe, which we now have to sort out. I think they were trying to globalize with the idea of ruling the world. But they haven't managed to do that. So even in Europe, they haven't brought over their cheap labour to replace us with, without us becoming aware of it and conscious of it, and possibly willing to struggle. So we're left with a very bad mess to clean up. And if we have any sense, in my opinion, some kind of measure to make sure these people don't get back in again. It's said that psychopaths are mostly at the top of the population. I mean, there are more psychopaths higher up, as they call it, than lower down, as they call it, because they like wealth and power. So, maybe we're being ruled by psychopaths. It's entirely possible. It's a genetic, physical illness, and there's no cure for it. And it does show on a brain scan. I think we should deselect it. I know it sounds like eugenics, and it is. But I think people who have psychopathy in their family should be made to only reproduce embryos that have been proven in a lab test to not be psychopathic. And people should only be allowed to have power, certainly political power, if they have a brain scan that shows they're not psychopathic. Because psychopaths are exactly the kind of people with no conscience and no empathy, no kindness, no feelings for others, as shows on their brain scan. They're exactly the kind of people who we do not need in power. They're the kind of people who start wars for money, just to sell military equipment, to stay in power by keeping people in jobs like making military equipment. And you actually do hear arguments from people who make military equipment who say that they would rather keep their jobs and have wars in other countries, or even here, who knows, than be unemployed. So there you go. That's the work ethos for you, for some people. And the lack of morality in people who go to work and are called good citizens. I think we should act with eugenics on psychopathy before it's too late, before the genes do spread throughout the population, or before psychopaths take over. They're said to be 4% of the population around the world, but I don't think they are. They've got so much power, I think they could be 10% or 20% or more of the population. I think we need to get our countries back and force people who carry psychopathy in their genes, and the genes for it have been found, to have non-psychopathic children. Otherwise, this is going to continue to happen again and again and again. It's said we're on the verge of World War III. We're in serious trouble all over the place, people. Let's wake up, shall we? You don't have a choice but to risk some nationalist party. You have to have a nationalist party, okay? You have to vote nationalist. Choose which one you like, but you have got to vote nationalist, because the time for trying any other course is over. We know what the big three parties, Labour, Liberal, and the Lib, Lab, and Cons do. We know what the Labour Party, the Liberal Party, and the Conservative Party all do. They're all bringing us into death within 20 years, okay? Or serious war. We either vote nationalist and have war, yes, but with people who at least might be on our side. At least we hope will be on our side, rather than war and certain death with these people that we know are not on our side and are definitely wiping us out. Okay? They're going to be 98 million. We're going to be 75 million. The total population is going to be a ridiculous 173 million. They said they wanted 70 million people. They just wanted to cram a few more in and get us to say it was okay for a few more years. In fact, they're going to carry right on until there are 173 million people in this country in just 20 years. And that's without counting further immigration of blacks and further emigration of white people. They're going to be up by 23 million, and that's a minimum, with my teeny little figure of 3 kids each. We do not have a choice. You vote nationalist and take a chance that we might live. Because this way we are definitely dead. All right? This way we are dead. For God's sake, vote nationalist, please. Wake up and vote nationalist now. And get realistic about eugenics. If nothing else, we have got to remove the psychopathic element of our population. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.